Hey everybody, I am live, and as you can see back in the other spot, I can't say it's the usual spot because I've done so many back in Georgia that they probably are starting to equal out. But nonetheless, welcome to the Wednesday night edition of Zenny62 on YouTube, and there's a lot going on. I struggled between titling this, for the NFL Buffalo Bills wide receiver who sadly passed away, and talking about Star Trek Discover. And I decided that since the majority of you, at times the vast majority of you, are interested only in Oakland Raiders Las Vegas news issues, not that that's a bad thing, I thought I would just simply keep on that road and then fit all everything else in for discussion, right? I'm going to be on here for 1 hour, and then I'm set to catch a flight to San Diego in the morning, although I'm mulling that one over because of the fact that, well, investors, I've explained this to everybody, I've explained it to, it just measuring the cost effectiveness of going back and forth. Hey Raider, how you doing? And of going back and forth on a daily basis from San Diego to here, back and forth. And even though I fly United, it's just a matter of getting back late and then getting up and everything else. That's what I'm mulling over. Having said all that, the fantastic news, hey Mr. Macy, is that the Zenny62 Media has been credentialed to cover the Star Trek Discovery cast press conference Saturday at 4:30. And I'm very excited. It's not the first big event by far I've covered, so those of you new to what I do, don't get that in mind. I just love Star Trek. And so, as a veteran member of the Comic-Con press, I have finally, after 8 years, scored, those marquee interview opportunities. And they started coming in bits and pieces a few years ago, and now they come more often, which is a great thing, and I hate to just blow that. So yes, I did get my luggage last night. Thank you very much. I really did, and I certainly did. Hey, I just want to say, hey Joshua, about the whole Las Vegas issue. There's a lot of news reports that the Raiders are hiring in Las Vegas, but what the people don't tell you, and I guess it's because they didn't bother to look at the Raiders website to see what what jobs were open. The Raiders are hiring more in Alameda than they are in Las Vegas. They had an opening for a community relations person in Las Vegas, have it, but of the 5 jobs, but the other 4 jobs are related to activity here in the Bay Area. So I wouldn't go hog wild with the notion that the Raiders are ignoring Oakland entirely and staffing up only for Las Vegas in the future. That's not the case at all. But what they have to build in terms of what they feel they have to build in terms of their hiring is fascinating because, hey, Joseph, hey, you have Joshua Stevens, Joseph Jones, Joseph True, and Beam Me Up Study, and Steve Macy so far. But as anyway, what I was saying is that what we have is, hey Octavio, how are you? How are you? Oh, by the way, anyone who I really encourage more investors, because it really helps me cover these great events that are happening. And hey, Mr. Lovejoy, how are you? So, if you haven't seen it before, here is the page for current and everybody, basically, if you want to know. Hey Steve, how are you? And then within that is this PayPal link, which is here. And thank you, I am well. I'm just mulling over a lot of things. I think the one thing is, how does it feel to be back? It feels strange. Oakland is changing a lot. It really is. Hey, Mr. Cooper, how are you? And it's changing in a way that is worth a movie or chronicle. It really is. And I made a couple of videos that alluded to that. And, you know, I'm going to revisit it. But my mom is fine. She misses me. I miss her. And at that stage where I'll be, August 4th, I'll be 55. Now I'm just going to vlog this. I'm going to talk. I'll be 55. Wow. I started vlogging when I was 44. Wow. I mean, it just seems like all the stuff that I've done of late that I started later in life was new from an internet perspective, right? And so now I look back and I've done it for this long and I'm thinking, okay, now maybe it's trying to transition into some other way of doing this. But it's amazing. I don't feel, you're turning 50 in August. I don't know what 55 is supposed to feel like. And it, in large part, is because of the nature of the work that I've done for the past decade. It's work that generally people half my age do. Look at all the vloggers that are out there, right? And I'm still doing it, right? And my background's in urban planning, and I still remember my first urban planning job in economic development in Oakland, and I can go on and on and on. So it's wild, but it's nice to be able to have that experience and then made it with the vlogging experience. And hey, thank you, Mr. Lighton. Thank you for the investment of 20. Thank you, Doc. That means a great deal. Thank you. And, oh, I came up with, that's a good question, Paul, and thank you for the investment. I came up with Zenny 62 because 62 is the year I was born. I was born August 4th, 1962. And for those of you who might be thinking, hey, that rings a bell, that was actually the same date. Well, excuse me, the same day and month that President Obama was born, but he was born a year earlier. So I always say that I'm perennially 1 year behind greatness. But the bottom line is that I opted to call it Zenny 62, not just because of my age, but I really thought about it. In 1962, and I believe I may have said this before, but it bears re-explaining, and I'll explain it in a shorter way. The Rolling Stones, the personal computer, the environmental movement book, The Silent Spring, arguably the book that launched the environmental movement, among other activities, all started the year I was born. And they're still familiar to all of you today. And some people have developed careers in environmental planning and environmental law and environmental justice that started arguably with The Silent Spring. And then others have been fans of the Rolling Stones for decades, some of you just for years, you know, but the Stones started when I was born. So, hey, how you doing? Welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you very, very much, you know. And so hey, Miss Christensen, how are you? How are you doing? How are you? And so I keep saying but the whole point is that, yes, hashtag Forever Oakland. But that's how I came to Zenny 62. Originally, the YouTube channel I had named, it was called Zenny Zeitgeist. And that was the name of my blog, Zenny Zeitgeist. You would say, why Zeitgeist? And yeah, Led Zeppelin does rule. Hey, by the way, there's going to be a Leonard Skinner biopic, and I'm going to angle for an interview with the person making that movie, okay? Just want to get that out there. I'm really excited. I just got an email about that. I'm a Leonard Skinner fan, okay? Say what you will. I like Leonard Skinner. But anyway, my whole point is that the Zenny Zeitgeist reflected a fascination I've always had for the zeitgeist, the passing, the spirit of the times. And yeah, best Led Zeppelin is, other than Metallica and other than the Rolling Stones, to me, are the best rock and roll band ever. That we can debate that one. That's another point. At any rate, give me 2 steps. That's right. Give me 2 steps. So, at any rate, my point is that we've had Steve Collins says no way. Yes way. I don't know which thing you're no waying me about, but I'll just say yes, since I said something that made you type Steve no way. What were you saying no way to? But Coup Sniper has, hey, it's my pleasure to invest back in town and check this out. I gotta go. Take care. Hey, thank you, Coog, and remember bowling soon. Oh, Zeppelin is number one? Ah, God, all right. So, Steve, Mr. Macy says AC/DC has to be in the equation for top 10 of all time. Agreed. Now, some of you like heavy metal, right? Some of you like rock. So, I mean, and then, of course, wait, let's not forget Kiss, all right? If we have a top 10, Kiss has to be in there, or even a top 5, right? So, Steve Collins says Metallica sold out. Oh, man. But Octavia was right. Metallica technically would not exist were it not for Led Zeppelin. But what about The Who? Okay? What about The Who? Octavia says Kiss best show, not band. Oh, well, okay. For some people, the show and the band are the same. Steve Collins says Kiss. He owes K Zenny. I'm fine. You have to remember, look, Zenny 62, which means what? I went to high school and junior high school in the 70s. Who ruled then? Right? I mean, the bands we're talking about, okay? Some of them still rule. Even though I might add now hip-hop is overtaking rock. How about that? As the most popular type of music in America. Explain that one. But, okay, back to Raiders issues before we get too far off into that. Jimi Hendrix. Thank you, Jimi Hendrix. But he wasn't a band, he was a person, right? So we're talking about bands, so it's not fair. Oh boy, I really started something here. Let's bank that one, all right? Okay, by a show of Black Sabbath. Oh man, we're getting into it now. We are getting into it. Black Sabbath. How about Elton John how about Elton John? Where you place Elton John? Elton John as a group. You can say the same thing about, right. Elton John, person, Led Zeppelin, Jimmy, yeah, okay, you got it. I'm making this too complicated. Jason Rivera says, unfortunate that hip-hop is the most popular music in America. I don't think it's unfortunate. I just think it's the way things are. See, for me, I don't know. Yeah. Thanks, John. John says, come on, guys. His name is spelled Jimmy. Thank you. And we're asking rock. Right. And Collins is keeping us on point. And Octavia says, Jimi Hendrix's Experience was a band. That's true. But, yeah, okay. Let's just group them. We'll group them, okay? You say Zeppelin's number one. I say Rolling Stones are number one. I say The Who's number 2. I say Zeppelin's number 3. You're like, oh! I say Kiss is number 4, all right? I say Sabbath is number 5. You get the idea. Oh, boy. Thank you, Mr. Venegas. Thank you, Mr. Venegas. Thank you very much. Thank you. Man, it's just, wow. And so, Octavio says, never. And Karen Christian says, Pink Floyd, number 6. Hey, telling you something. I'm telling you something. Learning to Fly is one of the best rock songs ever. I played that when I was riding the bike back in Georgia every single night. And that is just a song for your... But, it has to catch you the right way because it can make you sad. It really could. Now, Raider fans, yes, AC/DC deserves special mention for Back in Black. No question about that. That's the song that is drilled into our heads with a silver drill bit that is Raider silver, not just any silver, right? Placed within a black colored drill. That is without question. But that doesn't make them number one, okay? So, hey Juan, how are you? Hey Sierra, welcome, how are you? In Sync she votes for, or Sierra, he or she. Sierra says Tropical Tornado. Wow, we're getting some interesting and fascinating inputs here. Hell's Bells. Thank you. Hell's Bells. Hell's Bells is just reverberates. I mean, wow. Juan Ramirez says Machine Head, the true Oakland metal band. You know what? That's one I had just escaped my memory. And I live right here in Oakland. Boy, don't take my Oakland card away from me, all right? Just please. Steve Macy says, when that gonna hit you, you could feel the electricity in the stadium. Absolutely. Da-da-da. Da, da, da. I mean, just that, you know, it just goes, oh, da, 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 da. And I mean, wow. Rush, Queen, Testament. Okay. I'm going to develop a list here. Now, fans of football are saying, wait a minute, they're talking rock. Rock does go with football. Hip-hop goes with football. Let me tell you something, though. I'm not a disliker of any genre or a fan of any genre. I like specific groups and songs. For example, for hip-hop, when I think of hip-hop, I actually think of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and a classic piece called The Message. And The Message was produced in 1981, and it was about life on the streets. Don't push me because don't push me because I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a juggle sometimes, makes me wonder, right? I remember that to this day. But then what I don't like is that hip-hop is thought of as separate from rock, to which I think of, you know, the famous Aerosmith and Run DMC joined together in that classic video, which I think was much needed at the time because there was a sort of racial divide that, to me, never should have existed and should never exist to begin with. So, Karen says, did anybody contact Green Bay and Metallica to keep the Raiders? Ha ha. Green Day and Metallica. Ah, great idea. You know, Karen, oh, I know what you're talking about, Karen. I'll follow up with that. I'll follow up. Steve Macy says, Run DMC, classic, yes. And Octavia Harris throws out the Judas Priest card. Joseph Jones, Sugar Hill Gang started rap. Arguably, you're right. You're right. Juan Ramirez says, great point, Zenny, walk this way. Yeah, walk this way. I saw the video from that just like last week, and it just brought back so many fantastic memories. Karen Christian says, Green Day. Green Day is very much notable. And for me, it's ZZ Top. And there are other bands like, for example, the Counting Crows, of which the lead singer went to Cal, just right up the street here. I actually met him through Mike Silver, my friend who's with the NFL Network now. And Octavia Larfier says, crisscross. Wait a minute, crisscross. Mac down will make a jump, jump. Crisscross make a jump, jump. Well, yeah, boy, I get that one. Hey, maybe I'm getting something here. I should have a video, music video segment. Maybe if I can get the rights to play some of the videos, we can do a live stream around that, right? But I have to get the rights to them. NWA wearing Raiders gear helped give Raiders a bad image. That's interesting. I don't know that the Raiders have a bad image overall. I mean, I see what you're saying, Karen, but I don't think it was NWA at all. In fact, what it was came far. I mean, as a guy who will be 55 August 4th, right? That came long before NWA, and that came with just simply, it was an image the Raiders cultivated. Such things as, for example, when I think it was Ben Davidson had his forearm in a cast. No, Phil Villapiano. This was alleged that when he had a forearm in his cast, he had actually encased it with like cement or something like that, made it so hard that if he hit you, you went down. It was really cultivated in the 70s during the contest between the Steelers and the Raiders, where both accused the other of having criminal elements on their team. This wound up in court. I am not kidding you. That wound up in court. Old-time Raider heads will remember this, okay? And so this predates L.A. L.A. just added to it because the Raiders already had a bad boy image, all right? That was already there, you know? It's just that the rise of hip-hop, and hip-hop has an attitude. You have to remember that hip-hop is more than a song. For a lot of people who are in that, it's a religion. And it also served to heavily integrate America in a way that no other music has other than jazz. So, but the bottom line is it always had an edge. And it was, I remember getting into a spirited kind of, debate with New York Times columnist David Brooks, who implied in one column that he didn't want his daughter, he was fearful that his daughter was going to date a black rapper. And so I was posting as a columnist for the with the San Francisco Chronicle. You know, I was posting my Zinni 62 stuff on the Chronicle, right? And I got after him about it, and then I saw him at the Democratic National Convention in 2012. We had a nice little chuckle. But my point is that there's always been that division, which is sad. But I don't pin the Raiders' bad boy image on NWA at all. That never occurred to me. They are just one of many organizations that pick up the Raider bad boy image and use it for their own purposes. That came before NWA, and you know it's going to go on afterward. So anyway, yeah, Chris, I like Steve Macy says Chris Cross is whack, is wickety whack. Chris, how would it be in Vegas though? You know, if they go to Vegas, I'm sorry, not sold that this deal's going to work. I am not. And there was somebody on Twitter I want to mention. And so, glove don't fit, you must acquit. Isn't that that's tomorrow? So I want to say this, and then Mr. True has put in my head something I want to ask real quick. All right, and it's this. First of all, and Isaac, hey Isaac, how are you? Isaac says, do you see the Raiders signing the non-relocation agreement? What's your prediction? I don't want to predict on it. And the reason I don't want to predict on it is because I don't have enough information one way or another to give you a solid prediction. I will say it's 50-50, however, and that in and of itself, it may sound like a cop-out. Let me put it this way. I think it's 55 against 45 yes, all right? And here's why I say that. I'll get to that in a second. Here's why I say that, and it's a fantastic question, Mr. Rojas. Did I pronounce your last name correctly, by the way? Let me know. But here's why I say it's 55-45 in that way. Maybe if you like 60-40. Because Mark Arnold, the attorney that is under contract with the Las Vegas Stadium Authority, said, I believe it was at the May meeting. Thank you, Mr. Rojas. At the May meeting, he said that right now it doesn't look like they want to sign the non-relocation agreement. The authority's going to have some issues about that, but we'll work around it. Those were his words, okay? His words. Oh, thank you very much. I pronounced it correctly. Those were his words, Mr. Rojas. So the idea was, okay, they couldn't sign it. The reason why it's so important now is because of the commercial loan that's sitting out there that we don't know anything about the progress of, and we know for a while, that is allegedly supposed to be let by Bank of America, but because SB1 is written in such a way that we don't have a right to know the status of it. They can't tell us publicly, or excuse me, they can but won't and refuse to. We're left out there to guess, or we have to play certain tricks to draw them out. What do I mean by tricks? For example, I said not too long ago, hey Barry, if you're out there, could you tweet this out, please? Hashtag Raider Nation. And I'll do this as well. But I said, I've done estimates of my own. You've seen them, some regular viewers of this analysis. And I did that in order to draw out the consultants, and they could say, oh, that's Zinni, and they would slip and say something, right? That's the whole point. Because they could say that I'm wrong, but my retort is, well, show us your numbers. If I'm so wrong, show us your numbers. Because the one person that said that, the consultant, I found other work that he had done on the UNLV version of the stadium where the debt coverage, or the debt service for the bond issue was actually higher than the $47 million annually that was projected for this project. Yeah, you heard what I'm saying. So anyway, Juan Ramirez asked, will we ever hear from B of A regarding the loan? And, you know, I don't think you'll hear from B of A directly. If we hear from B of A, it will be through the Stadium Authority or the Raiders or leak. One of those three ways. Because there's a lot of secrecy tied to this project. And there are people who are anxious to get out information about it, it would seem. Mr. Rojas says, what about the issue on the Raiders pinching in on the Las Vegas infrastructure parking? Do you think Las Vegas will let the Raiders off the hook and pick up the tab themselves? Well, it's a good question, Mr. Rojas, but the Senate Bill 1 says that the developer has to pay, quote, an adequate, unquote, amount of the off-site infrastructure cost, which is pegged at approximately $900 million. I have split the difference and said the Raiders will have to pay $450 million. Given the fact that one interchange costs $200 million, it looks like so far when you take all the other infrastructure improvements that have to be done around, I'm right on. This whole issue comes during an election period coming up, 2018, which really begins summer and fall when people start staffing up with political consultants, right, for next year. So I believe that fact alone makes the future, how this goes out, murky. Why do I say that? You've got Sisolak running for, or ostensibly running for governor. Hasn't made an official announcement yet, but he, for a time, pinned his hopes to this. Okay? But notice how he's been more back in the shadows of late, not so much public. And when he was public, it was like he was trying to fix the message. Okay? That right there is a problem. Okay. I don't want to miss your comments here. And Steve Macy says, just tweet Raider Nation. Yes, absolutely. Well, when you attach that hashtag to this tweet, yeah. Don't just tweet Raider Nation on its own, but with the link to this live stream. And let's see here. Crawford371. Crawford, how are you? Says the Raider image took a hit when they moved to Los Angeles in the first place. Scott Terwilliger says, I think a perfect artisan song for the Raiders to play at their stadiums would be House of Pains Jump Around. I like that one. Crawford also adds, how does being back in Oakland feel right now? You know, candidly, because I'm, you know, my age, my mother's age, the fact that I'm an only child, and my obligation I feel to my mom, it's difficult. And I have some decisions to make. Mr. Macy, I think I had said, you know, welcome back to Oakland, Mr. Mayor, and I said, I appreciate that, but that idea's got to be put on the way back burner, because and not only that, also I am at a stage where, you know, I'm looking for new clients or a new permanent job, right? So that's where I'm at. And folks, for those of you who think this kind of candor is unusual, among vloggers, it's not, okay? It's not. There are people who tell you every aspect of their life and show a lot of things. This is classic vlogging. You talk about things because the whole point is everybody experiences these things or will at some point in their life in some kind of way. That's just a fact. So, and I don't believe in hiding or sugarcoating. This is where I'm at. And so, but also someone, you know, that's where I'm at. So as you know. So at any rate, but over, you know, it's Big Eightful. How are you doing? But it feels, I'll tell you what, Mr. Macy, to finish that point that I was making, it's cool to walk down the street and, you know, you walk down and someone says, hey, Zinni, and it's somebody you don't recognize. You realize they're saying hi because they watch the videos and everything. That's nice, you know. But I'm at an area where I know people, but you can see a lot of new faces around here at a rate that I've never seen before. That's different. And Big Eightful says, Stevie Sports says, I hit a new low with the OJ parole hearing. This reminds me of the Twilight Zone against episode The Obsolete Man. Octavio says, family comes first. Yes. Scott Terwilliger says, that would be good, Crawford. Orlando Jimenez says, you think the Raiders are trying to get more investors to help them move to Las Vegas? That could be. I'll check on that. It'll have to be a leak, but I'll investigate it. Mr. Rojas asks, can the changing of governor in Las Vegas change the outcome for the Raiders moving to Las Vegas? Yes. In fact, the process could make it worse. Or change the deal dramatically, not favoring the Raiders, but favoring UNLV. Yes, and I believe that is in the works already. I believe there are people who want to move the Raiders out of the way and get UNLV the stadium they've always coveted. They've got basically the money now. The Raiders really have to be careful with how they handle this politically, and so far it's not going well for them, or as well as, you know, it should. Ed Reed says, I still think the deal will fall apart. And Ed, I still harbor that notion. Juan Ramirez says, Zinni, my thoughts and prayers are with you. Thank you very much for the hard work and sacrifice you make and provide the daily content that you give us. And I want to thank everybody for investing. Really saved my earth at a time when, I needed it, and I just simply went and decided, you know what, I'm just gonna swing for the fences and go for it. And you all came through in a way when I really needed you. So I cannot thank everybody enough. I mean, it doesn't matter if, like I said this before, if it's $1, $2, $20, $200, whatever. That's been fantastic, fantastic. Thank you. And investors, no, you mean in terms of the Raiders investors? I'll get to that one in a second, Octavio. Eric says, if Mark Davis wanted to save money, why didn't he talk to the developer for the Raiders Stadium in Oakland? That's a very good question, but I would speculate it has to do with the fact that Mark Davis, at least on his cover, says that he believes he owes it to the governor of Nevada to fulfill a promise, even though the governor of Nevada is being termed out. Okay, so take that for what it's worth. Thank you, Mr. Macy, for the tweet. Now, Joseph True says Zinni Stadium plan will work. Thank you, Mr. True. It will work. It's been blessed by Piper Jaffray. Octavio says, what kind of stadium can UNLV with $750 million? Here's the thing. Basically a good one. And there's already been studies for that, for UNLV, to build a stadium, a scaled down version, which would cost them about, I believe it was $650 million at the time, okay? The money is there. Even if they don't settle up on that site, UNLV can maybe elect to turn things around. And, well, no, they would sell on that site anyway because it was always purchased, they say by the Raiders, but I believe that was Mr. Adelson's money that did it, okay? And they could take over that site for UNLV. Now, the big issue with all of this is the FAA. And we still don't know what the FAA is going to say. So we've got to really hold on to our collective rears before and see what the FAA is going to ask for, because we know we have a stadium that is over the height limit. We know we have a stadium that's very close to the airport. Even if it's not as close as the Bali High property, it's only diagonally across the interstate, right? So we've got to hold on there. Now, Steve, I'm sure you did it right. Now, Octavio asked that question, and Scott Terwilliger says, I believe UNLV and Las Vegas are using the Raiders as a stepping stone for their own purposes as well. May end up forcing the Raiders to move yet again, and which is probably why they're not signing the non-relocation agreement. There's a lot going on there. Ed Reed said, keep up the good work, Zen. Mr. Robert Harris speaks. Robert Harris is a classic Oaklander. He is fantastic, Mr. Reed. He is class act. Robert Harris, for years, was the relations representative for Pacific Gas and Electric here. Robert Harris, class act, great person. Give my love back to Mr. Harris and my respect. A great Oaklander who should be celebrated. Just saying that right off, and you can show him I say this right here, okay? Bob Harris, great guy. I met Bob Harris when I was economic advisor to Elihu Harris when he was Oakland mayor. So thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. Octavio says, parking, bigger issue. Huge issue. Mr. Macy says, we need to build a stadium in case Las Vegas doesn't work. I agree. Our own large-scale event center in Oakland. So the Raiders don't have a reason to go elsewhere. Yeah, and the other thing that I'm concerned about is this notion around town that Oakland's government doesn't know how to fix problems. It's more than what I said, Oakland having to have the will and the initiative to complete big projects, right? It's just understanding how to run government to help better the lives of people. It seems like that's lost on the current, not just my god sister, but the whole, it makes me cry, because I remember when Oakland could really use government to improve the lives of its people. That's really it. That's bothersome. So we've got, Steve Macy says, we need to build a stadium. I got that one. Mr. Rojas says, do you know if there are people with deep pockets stepping up to help pay for the lawyer, Quinn, to help either way to keep the Raiders in Oakland or make Mark Davis and Mark Bidet more miserable? I will say this, Mr. Rojas. I don't know of a specific name, but I do know that there has been a drive to get them. And given the nature of that action, I don't believe at this point they want to be made known. Okay? So, and Mr. Zinni, how long are you in the town? Well, I plan to take a flight to San Diego in the morning. I'm mulling that over and thinking maybe I should scale it to Saturday, but I've already got it planned. I was gonna go down to San Diego and then come back the night, do all my live streaming there at Comic-Con for that day, get my press stuff, my credentials, and then go, right? And then come back here. So I'm mulling that over, and I may do it just as a test and wake up. Then also I've got to check the flights and see how the load factors look. Ed Reed says, Zinni then, Oakland now. And I want to say something, by the way. United Airlines is still the greatest airline in the world from my experience. I'm biased in that I've flown United as family since I was 6 years old, and I'm 55, so take that. But I'm saying to you, United Airlines is strong, and it's going to come back stronger. I know we went through a lot of maladies, but we'll be back. I promise you, we're coming back. We're coming back. So, Ed Reed says, Oakland then, Oakland now, Oakland forever. The more I hear, the more it stinks. I think there is a backyard deal on between Davis and Oakland. God, I hope so. I do get that feeling too. I do. Karen Christensen says, doesn't it seem like Mark is hesitant to move to Vegas since the non-relocation agreement isn't signed yet? Yes. Hey, Miss Christensen, are you and Ed Reed in the same house? Your comments, or your questions, were back to back, okay? And Octavio says, give Coliseum site to developer and get stadium built. Yes, absolutely. And, by the way, the meeting last week in Vegas was a black eye for the Raiders in the NFL. Not to mention the homeless issue. And I was going to... by the way, I'm writing for investors. I'm writing this in case you would like to invest. I will handle getting you your additional shares tonight after this cast, live stream, okay? And as far as the meeting, yes, but also the homeless issue. I said I wasn't going to vlog about it, but here's what I'm thinking about. What a fascinating and what an impactful PR approach to let people know that our priorities are in a way misplaced, okay? Than to do that. Now, does that mean I think a PR company paid someone to be there as a homeless person? No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that because then you have to say, well, what would be the outcome? I'm saying that the homeless person themselves is trying to make a statement. They know they're going to be seen if they do that, and it's going to make a statement, and that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. Bad karma? Of course it is. Absolutely. Could it have been made a better situation? Maybe. Perhaps. Octavio says, NFL Game Pass has bleaked out live games for this season, and it's a huge problem down here. Wow. Down in Peru, or excuse me, I say Peru. Octavio's going to kick my butt. Panama, Octavio. You're in Panama, okay? So, so we've got, what's going on with Game Pass, Octavio? And we've got FTX 168 says, in case Vegas falls through, the plan for a new stadium convention center and hotel should be implemented here. Yeah, absolutely. I came up with that idea to meet the desires of two masters, if you will. Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf said no public money, right? Mark Davis, on the other hand, was looking for a solution to fill a gap of $400 million or thereabouts, $300-400 million. So I read about, I thought, why is it that a stadium really needs public money? And I talked to a developer friend of mine, and he said, well, look, I said, how come something like Salesforce Tower can go up, it's 1.1 billion, maybe more than that. No public money. He says, well, they've got all these tenant commitments. Of course, tenant commitments, bonehead. Forgot my basic, real estate investment analysis. So that caused me to rethink things, and I started to do research on other projects. And the reason I did that, other development projects, to see what was going on, state of the art, right, in terms of financing. and I quite literally stumbled upon the Cleveland Downtown Hotel and Convention Center, which basically the convention center is financed in part by the hotel. That's where I got the idea to use that for the Raider Stadium concept. Now, the main driver in that configuration is number of hotel rooms and hotel room price. And so that's why I had 1,000 rooms, because it didn't really pencil out at 400. At 500, it was just getting there. 600, it kind of, started to work really well from one wing, right? And then at 610, it was perfect. So I had 2. 600 for the Raiders side, 400 rooms for the A side, and it worked like a charm. In fact, the A side threw off more money that I could use in part for the Raiders side if I wanted to. That's where I got the idea from. So it's not something that's never been done before. No, that's not the way I did it. But I'm glad you brought that up. We see we have... Crawford says they also need space for parking and tailgating in Vegas. And in the Raiders, here they'd have it. Octavio says they will only rerun games, but no live feed anymore. Wow. ML Scott, welcome. Glad you're here. Thank you. Steve Macy says, Zinni, I need to head out. Great to see you, Mr. Macy. Time for a drink and then head off to bed. One life, one nation. Good night all. Hey, Mr. Macy, love to have your investment, even if it's the cost of a cheap drink like $2. That way I can put you on the list, get you all this information that investors have and everything else, and back channel stuff, right? So at any rate, Octavia says, Roger, good to Kelkin kisses. Okay. Tim, I'm going to take a stab at pronouncing Mr. Baldenegro. Did I get that right? Tim Baldenegro's last name. Why does it seem mainstream media call out Mark Davis about the lying? Why doesn't? I'll tell you. And then John Davis says, why are they moving to Vegas? That's a freaking embarrassment. They're not moving yet. They're trying. John Davis says, I respect Raider fans. They belong in Oakland. Yes. And Joseph Jackson says, hello, Gainesville. It's good to see you again, my good friend. Joseph, it's great to have you here, sir. And, and Mr. Macy says, yep, watch the language. Absolutely. But here's the thing, Mr. Macy, I kind of bleeped out I have a huge list of things that are hard to say. So, Octavio's probably kind of struggling, figuring out, how can I do this? I gotcha. But at any rate, Daniel Dillon says, trying to break more hearts, hire and fire layoffs and leave for Vegas. Yeah, that's, they're in a dicey situation there. They really are, the Raiders. Not a good situation on balance. The worst part of it is that Las Vegas is not infrastructurally ready to handle the Raiders as is. And the other part that has not come out is sewage. And I have to dig and find out if anybody, because that's not even mentioned in SB1, has anyone calculated if the Las Vegas water and sewage system, pipe system, can handle 60,000 people going to the bathroom during halftime, right? So, and Crawford said I need to do a live vlog where it's unfiltered. Yeah, and then they start dinging me, and they can't run ads and all that stuff, and I can't make any money, right? Mr. Dillon says, welcome home. Thank you so much. Don Davis says, Raiders going to win the division this year. I hope so. The Raiders have a big mark on them. They really do. They really do. So hold on a second, folks. I'm getting a little bit of a buffering. Maybe you may not be getting it back and forth here. But at any rate, see, I'm writing that I'm, in case any more, yeah. I'm writing, I am still here. I am still here, okay? Just in case. Yeah, it did go dark. Yeah, I'm still here. I don't know what's going up with that, but it did go dark for a second. Hold on a second. Let me see what's happening. Let me go to the control room and see what the deal is. It says the stream is okay, and it's playing because for you, if I say view on watch page, I'm going to play it through, and the reason is that for some of you, how many people can still see me? The numbers are going down. That means we have a problem. Oh, okay. It's back. Yeah, it's buffering. It's back. Yeah, I don't know what was up with that, folks. Sorry. Yeah, I got it now too. I'm back too as well. That was really weird. Yeah, I'm back. I had the same problem, folks. I had the same problem. So, but we're back. Okay, we never left, right? Okay, and Adelson paid to shut me off, but I'm back. Take that, Adelson. You can't shut me off. It keeps cutting out. Don't go anywhere, Karen. Still here. I'm writing still here, Karen. Still here. Still here. So, in fact, I'm going to tweet it out just to, we are here. And, let's see here. We got, it's 12, let's see here. 12:53. It's almost 1 o'clock, which means it's almost 10 o'clock. So I'm going to stop in 10 minutes just because I need to go to bed. But NFL, the hashtag Raiders. Oops. Yeah, I'll tag Raiders like that. Why not? There. Cool. All right. Hey, thank you. All right. We are back. And Big April says they cut you off. Vegas is, what? Hey, can you see now? Can you see me now? Yes. Do you think Oh, yes, I do think Megatron signing is overkill. I am still asking, if you bring on Calvin Johnson, who do you cut? But the bigger question for me, as I said last night, is, hey, look, where's Calvin Johnson's head about taking a hit? Okay? Where is he about... Okay, not yet, okay? All right. Hey, Big Eightful, if you can't see me, I would say refresh screen. Refresh the screen. If you can't see, refresh the screen. That'll try that. John Davis says, Isaac, the Raiders going to sign Calvin, and yeah, there's talk of that, Mr. Davis. There is talk of that. Okay. And John Davis says, laugh out loud. If they get Calvin Johnson, guarantee y'all win in the division. John Davis says, y'all only got to compete with Chiefs. Woo! He has totally cut out the Chargers and the Broncos. Wow. Yeah, Citron's right. Refreshing. You do have to wait it out. Sorry about that. But I think it's coming back for people. 831 Scott says, you can't cut Crabtree's too productive for the Raiders. Mr. Scott, I completely agree. Crawford says playing for the Lions was like getting hit by a train. Yeah, I think it really impacted the poor guy. You got it, Big Eightful? Awesome. Yeah, I think it really impacted Mr. Johnson a great deal. So they need to determine where his head is at. And, you know, Mr. Davis, you're a fan of Derek Carr, so am I. Believe me, I know I've been critical, but I'm a fan. I've been critical, but I'm a fan. The Raiders, the biggest issue beyond Vegas and everything else that I have with the Raiders right now is too much pressure is being put on the idea that they're going to win. They're being inflated up high. Carr's got the largest contract in the NFL. Raiders have added all these great new players. And you know, and built on last year, they've got a new offensive coordinator. They are placed at a position where they can go nowhere but down, and that bothers me. That bothers me. Something's got to be done. The Coach Del Rio has to say something to temper the crowd, temper expectations, and talk about just winning on a game-by-game basis. You know. Dorian says, cut a new receiver and Roberts drops are no. Yeah. Mr. Collins says you still have to play the games. Right. You play to win the game. Who said that? You play to win the game. Mr. Christian says, if we sign Megatron, won't that affect our ability to get good players again in the draft? We still need to sign Mac. I don't see. That does depend on the cap. I have to, you know what? I have to analyze the numbers and let you know. Get back to you on that. If I forget to answer next time, remind me, please. Herm Edwards said it. Steve Collins, Dennis Green. You play to win the game. Actually, it was Herm Edwards. No, Steve. Dennis Green said the Bears, who were the Bears, are what we thought they were, and we let them off the hook. Bam. That was hilarious. Oh man. Dennis Green, the late Dennis Green, one of the great coaches in NFL history, in college football history. Do you realize, little talked about, Dennis Green was the first Stanford black head coach. And I believe he was the first Stanford coach in the modern era to beat Notre Dame. At Notre Dame. Yes, that was the first time in Stanford's history, that was 1990, that, 91, 90? Anyway, where Stanford beat Notre Dame. And maybe it's a little bit ahead of, maybe a little bit ahead of that, but Stanford beat Notre Dame for the first time in Notre Dame, and that was Jason Columbus was the quarterback, and they shocked Notre Dame. Notre Dame was coached by Lou Holtz at that time. So, yeah, and and so Karen says we have a chance of beating Patriots due to the Mattern curse. Octavio Arias says 1 year deal. Mr. Ross says, hey Zitty, do you think going cheap on the inside linebacker position will backfire? I tend to believe that the main problem was with the alignment with the Raiders, not personnel. I think that the alignment is not suited to what the personnel can do best in terms of getting off the ball quickly. And I'm not a fan of two-gapping. So, Karen says, I agree with Octavio. Dorian Sandavera says, no, Megatron would sign a team-friendly deal for 1 or 2 years. That's the only way you can get him. Steve Collins says, we don't need Megatron. And I kind of agree, we're rich as it is. Nothing against Megatron. But there's some questions I have out there. So, Golden Bunch 247 says, you have to forgive Raider Nation for getting carried away with expectations. After what we went through for over a decade, last year, says Golden Touch 247, expectations were high, and this year even higher. Let's get it! So Rick Rice says, Zitty Two Shoes, you're the man. Hey, I'm suitcased in two shoes. I like that. John Davis says, Golden, that's what I'm saying. Laugh out loud. I like it. I like it a lot. I like it. It is now 10 o'clock, so at 10:10, I'm going to sign off and then get ready to get up. John Davis says, they finally have a good team. Now they want to go to Vegas. Slowly. Let's let this play out. Okay? Let's let this play out. 831 Scott says, I can't believe someone hasn't signed Colin Kaepernick. Isn't that tragedy? There have been players that fought dogs, beat children, and hit women who were treated better. I don't know if he fought dogs, but he made dogs fuss. Michael Vick. The children part, that was Adrian Peterson. And hit women, that was take your pick. Oh my lord. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's Kaepernick has done nothing. I remember there was some sort of sexual allegation in Florida, and it was dropped. And when you read the case, it sounded like it was a misunderstanding. Arguably, someone was setting him up. And I thought that, because this is the way I think, I thought maybe something with the Niners at the time. This is how I'm thinking. I'm just putting it out there. Maybe someone connected with the Niners, not necessarily in the Niners. Maybe someone, paid this person to do this, to give Colin Kaepernick a bad name so that he'd get a lower contract. Because it happened around the time that he was negotiating for that bigger contract, okay? So I take nothing to chance. That's why I said that, all right? Nothing. The JPA meeting is 1 week from Friday. It is at Oracle 1 week from Friday. G. Taylor says Raiders will underachieve this year. Well, here's the thing. Underachieving can take on a lot of looks. If they go wild card and make the playoffs, it's underachieving because people expected them to win the division. But then that begs the question, who would win over them if that happened? Would it be the Chiefs? Would it be the new-look Broncos? Would it be the new-look Chargers? Who would it be? You know, who would it be? Who would it be? So it's Steve Collins says, "Oh, Octavio Arias says Kaepernick does not show he wants to play in the NFL." You know, I think here's the problem. It's not that Kaepernick hasn't shown he wants to play in the NFL. It's just no one's called him. And to me, it's not a good thing to have Colin Kaepernick be the symbol of political divide within the NFL communicated to the fans. The NFL could very easily play this in a way that works for it by, first of all, establishing, if anything, you want to give Colin Kaepernick some comfort. I'm not pretending to speak for him, but I'll be surprised if he objected to this idea. Something where the NFL knows that its players are protected from some of the ills of society. Some of the, for example, one Charger player being turned down for an apartment, even though he has paid all of the upfront years, and they still turned him down. So it looks like they turned him down because he's black. And someone says, well, it's his credit rating. Excuse me, if somebody's going to pay you that much money up front, I'm sorry, credit rating goes out the door. This guy's giving you cash up front. Take the cash. If he's able to do that, take it. But for them not to do that and then say it's credit rating, I mean, come on, okay? That's bad. It's the NFL's responsibility to protect its players, particularly from, you know, racial injustice and everything else. And to me, the NFL is not doing that. It just isn't. So, Octavia says, who needs who, the NFL or Kaepernick? They both can coexist without each other. And Colin Kaepernick, as he says, I'm good. He's a million. Make the right investments, he can be richer. So John Davis says, Raiders and Chiefs are going to be a good fight. Raiders and Broncos is going to be a better fight. Rick Rice says, Cutler hasn't been signed either. I think it's due to talent, not prejudice. Golden House says, Cap was vacationing in Egypt not long ago. Doesn't give the impression he's hungry to prove doubters wrong. Should be working like a madman. Yeah, that's a good point, Golden Touch. He just, you know, having said that, perhaps he has just decided that he is going to just sit it out for whatever reason. Well, we know the reasons, right? But for reasons associated with that, and think, as he said last year, nah, I'm good. Okay? There you go. But he's also, he's being an activist. He probably believes it is his calling to help improve society in the way that he sees fit, and that he feels he has enough money to do it. And if he steps outside of the NFL shadow, perhaps he believes he'll be able to work unfettered. You know? So, hey. So, John Davis says, Chiefs need a couple of damn wins. Where do you live, John? John says, what's wrong with them? They never have... Oh, wide receivers. They had wide receivers. They probably just simply overpay for them. You know, the Chiefs. So there you go. So, probably just overpay for them, I think is what it is. The great Muhammad Ali was the ultimate activist in the sports world. Exactly. Exactly. And he came out okay, didn't he? He really did. He really did. Yeah, but good point about Cutler, Rick Rice. That's a good point. But my argument is that Cutler never got a team to the Super Bowl. Colin Kaepernick did. And he was a guy for a particular type of system. You know, the read option with read option play action, right? But he was certainly better than Blaine Gabbert. And yet Blaine Gabbert got picked up. I mean, come on. Come on. You have to give him a chance. That's what happens. You can't let the system block someone out and then blame it on them all the time. You have to blame some of it on the system. The system is blocking him out. I don't care what anybody says. He hasn't been called. He should be called. If you could put Blaine Gabbert on another team, I mean, really? You know, I'm just saying. Okay? So, Isaac Rojas says, I didn't catch your reply to my last question, buffering issues. Hey, Mr. Marks, how you doing? Oh, John, man, I'm only sticking on for a few minutes more. I'll stay on for a little bit more on behalf of the fact that you've arrived, Mr. Marks. Mr. Rojas, I believe, can you repost your last question? I apologize because so much has gone by. I'm trying to catch everything as I can. And Karen Creature says, I wonder when the Browns will win the Super Bowl. It would be sooner. I'll give them another 3 years to be in it. Not win it, to be in it. Golden Touch says, Tim Tebow, he's better than most of the scrubs holding a clipboard. Yep. Ed Reed says, Davis needs to go back to the table with Oakland. Put your ego aside. The offer is there. New stadium equals hosting a Super Bowl. Our city will prosper. They will go to the wire. Mr. Rojas, yeah, could you... Oh, he says, do you think the Raiders going cheap on the inside linebacker position will backfire? And I said that I don't believe it's an issue of personnel. It's scheme. I'm not a fan of two-gapping where you have a defensive person responsible for either gap here or here. You have them pursue through one gap. You give them the air responsibility like Tom Landry in the flex defense, or Tom Landry, the way he coached the 4-3 defenses, first with the New York Giants and then as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, okay? And you turn your quick line people loose. You don't leave them as blocking sleds for offensive line people as what two-gapping does. So, okay, and so Nick Rice says, I think Cap's style of play doesn't work in the NFL. Teams need pocket passers. But he revealed himself as as being an effective pocket passer, though. John Jeff Davis said, I would trade Antonio Brown for Eric Berry and Justin Houston. Golden Touch 247 says, that would be a monster trade, John Davis. Isaac Rojas says, do you think the hiring of John Pagano will change that? It's not so much the hiring, it's the scheme. It's what the defenders are asked to do. If Pagano comes in and it's still an issue of two-gapping, no. I don't. But if the Raiders let go of two-gapping and practice the Arizona Cardinals style of defense, which I love, better days, much better, okay? John Davis says, hell yeah, I would trade Antonio Brown for a couple of great people on defense. I like Antonio. Oh my goodness, this is hilarious. Oh boy, this is something else. So, excuse me. 11 is 110, which means it's 10-10, all right? So, John Marks, I'm going to go another 10 minutes for you. Okay? 10 minutes. That's right. Mr. Collins says defense wins championships, all right? It does. Investors. It does. Offense sells tickets. Defense wins championships. I wonder who first made that statement. So, Vic Rice says, keep a ton of arm strength. Lost a ton of arm strength. We went full Muslim and became a vegetarian. Oh, I don't know about that. That's going too far. I mean, my God, that's like, you can be a vegan and maintain, protein and arm strength. You know how to approach the diet the right way. You can do that. Am I dark again? Oh my gosh. How does it feel back to be? Oh yeah. Okay, I'm back. How does it feel back in Oakland? As I said earlier, John, before you came on, and I'm back. Is that what do I think of Tamil Mack's truck deal? Awesome. He deserves even better than that. It was a full-on. Well, anyway. It feels good. It's just that, I miss my mom and I have an obligation to my mom at this point. And, but I'm here. I'm going to try to get things back to where they were here. And if that doesn't work, I'm contemplating just going and helping her in Georgia. I'm really thinking about that. I've been here since I was, since 12 years old, And I went to college away, went to Texas, Arlington, came back for grad school at Berkeley. Oakland's been so much a part of my life, it isn't funny, but I'm at that age part, and my mom is my only family, and I didn't bless her with a wife and kids like many of you have, and I'd like to do that before as I get on in years. So I'm thinking all this is going through my head, okay, and my idea in establishing this and other businesses was to turn it over, build it, and then sell it for a bigly amount of money, right, or whatever that is, and go on to the next adventure. And that didn't happen that way. So I'm thinking about strategy, priorities, that sort of thing. That's what I'm thinking about. But I was credentialed to cover Comic-Con for the 8th year in a row, and that says a lot for how Zenny 62 Media has advanced and how respected it is. And not only that, I'm credentialed I'm approved to cover the cast of Star Trek Discovery on Saturday, right? So I've got to make that go on. I've got to make my investors, you guys, I've got to make you guys happy, right? So there you go. So, and Mack Trucks. I like that. Mack Trucks for Khalil Mack. And John Davis has got the great comments. John Santos. Thank you, sir. John Santos says, welcome back to the Bay. Thank you, sir. Nice to be back. And John Davis says, we got. And, hey, John Marks, quick question for you. Who's the greatest rock band in history? This is a question perfectly suited for you. I want to ask, but you weren't here to answer it before. Antonio Brown got the Pats fired up. He did, didn't he? He did. He certainly did. AC/DC, he says, number one. Others say Led Zeppelin. Others say The Who. Others say Black Sabbath. I say the Rolling Stones, number one. All right. Stones. That's all I say, all right. Nice to be back. In Sync, says Rick Rice. Spelled slightly different than it was earlier. In Sync. Yep. So we've got Octavia Arias says Zeppelin, no question about it. Don't worry, I'm not going to start everybody's like, rock thing. But John Davis says, I know Brady torched our zone defense. We should have played man. But you know what? I think Gainey and Connolly, that's why I think Reggie McKenzie wanted him and went through so much to get him, is that he would help improve our defensive speed, I think that's the idea there. So I'm sorry about this buffering, folks. I'll write still here. Still here. Okay. And I know that buffering goes back and forth, whatever that is, but still here. And I have an idea. I'm going to tweet this out again. And say hashtag Oakland. Oakland. Like that. Hashtag NFL. There. AC/DC is rocking. Yes. Absolutely. AC/DC is rocking. Alright, so it's 10:15. And what I'm going to do, folks, is I've got to get up early in the morning. It's 10:15 a.m. It's also 1:15, so I'm still on East Coast time. So I'm going to bid everybody adieu and say stay tuned to Zenny 62. Thank you all, investors, for your investments. They will get updates out tomorrow. When I say tomorrow, today? Well, it's tomorrow if it's, back east, right? But today. And thank you for your support. And as Crawford would remind us, you can bet your last money. It's all been a Stone Gas, honey. It's going to be. And I'll see you all tomorrow online. Thank you all again. Thank you for your support. Thank you for watching. Good night. Good night, Barry Lee. Good night, John. Good night, Karen. Good night, John. Steve Collins, Octavio. Joseph. The two Josephs. 831 Scott. Money Lynch. Everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for your additional investments, Paul. And thank you for your additional investments, everybody else, and Pushank and everyone else. So thank you. Good night. Good night, everybody. See you. See you all. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Wrights. Got it. Luggage bags. Thank you. Thank you. And for those of you who've just tuned in, I apologize. I'm signing out a bit early tonight. What time tomorrow? Well, it's going to be... My flight is scheduled to leave at 8, so I'll be in the air. But I'll be live streaming. If I don't go to San Diego, you'll know it. If I go, you'll know it. Okay? So I'm going to be putting up videos constantly. I'm going to be live streaming more than once. Alright? So, check in with me periodically. But good night. I got to get to bed. I'll see you. Good night.